You know how some people just seem to understand what makes a great story? Rob Reiner was one of those people. And when I say understand, I mean the man had an almost supernatural ability to make you laugh until your sides hurt, then turn around and make you cry happy tears, and sometimes scare the absolute daylights out of you. This isn't going to be your typical Hollywood retrospective. No, we're going to take our time here because Rob Reiner's story deserves it. We're talking about a guy who went from being called Meathead on television to directing some of the most beloved films in American cinema. And along the way, he fought for causes he believed in with the same passion he brought to the screen. So settle in. Get comfortable. Maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea. This is going to be a journey through one of the most remarkable careers Hollywood has ever seen. Growing up Reiner. It's the 1950s in New Rochelle, New York. You're a kid living at 48 Bonnie Meadow Road, and your dad is Carl Reiner. You know, the guy creating and starring in The Dick Van Dyke Show. Your mom, Estelle, is a singer with impeccable comedic timing. Dinner conversations probably involved more punchlines than most comedy clubs. Now, you might think growing up in that environment would be easy. Rob Reiner would beg to differ. He's spoken openly about feeling the weight of his father's 12 Emmy Awards bearing down on him. Imagine trying to follow in those footsteps. It's like being asked to fill Shaquille O'Neal's sneakers when you're still learning to tie your shoelaces. But here's where it gets interesting. Rob didn't run from that pressure. He transformed it. After high school, his parents nudged him towards summer theater. He landed at the Bucks County Playhouse in Pennsylvania as an apprentice, learning the craft from the ground up. Then came UCLA Film School, where the foundation for his directing career was quietly being laid. In the late 1960s, Rob started acting in bit roles. We're talking appearances on Batman, The Andy Griffith Show, Gomer Pyle. If it was on television, chances are young Rob Reiner showed up for a scene or two. But his big break came when he partnered with another young comedian as a writing team for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in 1968 and 1969. That other comedian? Steve Martin. Yeah, that Steve Martin. Meathead makes his mark. Then came 1971. Norman Lear, the television producer with the gift for controversial, groundbreaking comedy, cast Rob Reiner as Michael Meathead Stivic in All in the Family. If you haven't seen All in the Family, let me paint the picture. Carol O'Connor played Archie Bunker, a working-class guy with, let's call them, traditional views. Rob played his son-in-law, Michael, the liberal hippie college student who clashed with Archie on absolutely everything. The show tackled racism, sexism, politics, religion, topics most sitcoms wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. The show became the most watched program in America for 5 consecutive years. 5 years! Rob won 2 Emmy Awards for the role. But here's the thing, no matter what he accomplished afterward, people still called him Meathead. Even his ex-wife, Penny Marshall, joked about it. For me, all they say is Laverne, and for Rob, it's Meathead. We're stuck with it. During this time, Rob married actress and director Penny Marshall in 1971, adopting her daughter Tracy from her previous marriage. Their marriage lasted until 1981, and both would go on to become major Hollywood directors, a fact that makes you wonder what their dinner conversations must have been like. The 7-year miracle. Here's where things get really interesting. After All in the Family ended in 1979, Rob could have coasted on his television fame. Instead, he decided to direct movies. And not just any movies. He was about to embark on one of the most extraordinary directorial runs in cinema history. This is Spinal Tap. Rob's directorial debut was essentially a prank that became a masterpiece. This is Spinal Tap was built on a roughly sketched treatment and largely improvised. Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Sharon played the members of Spinal Tap, a dim-witted heavy metal band, while Rob portrayed Marty DeBurgi, the earnest documentarian following them around. The film invented the modern mockumentary format. Roger Ebert called it one of the funniest movies ever made. It was so convincing that some people thought Spinal Tap was a real band. The amp that goes to 11, the Stonehenge stage prop disaster, these became part of pop culture vocabulary. The Sure Thing. Rob followed up with The Sure Thing, a teen comedy that elevated the entire genre. It was smart, sweet, and proved that movies about young people didn't have to be lowbrow to be entertaining. Stand By Me. Then came Stand By Me, based on a Stephen King novella. 4 boys go on a journey to see a dead body. In lesser hands, this could have been exploitative or maudlin. In Rob's hands, it became one of the finest coming-of-age films ever made. The young cast, Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell, delivered performances so genuine you forgot they were acting. Rob earned Golden Globe, Independent Spirit, and Directors Guild of America nominations. The film is regularly cited as a masterpiece of its genre. The Princess Bride. Here's where Rob's personal life intersected with his professional life in the most beautiful way. While directing this film, he was introduced to photographer Michelle Singer. Their meeting not only led to their marriage later that year, but Michelle actually influenced Rob's decision to change the film's ending, turning it into the romantic conclusion we all know and love. When Harry Met Sally, starring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, became the high watermark for romantic comedies. That deli scene, you know the one. I'll Have What She's Having, delivered by Rob's own mother, Estelle Reiner. The film proved that rom-coms could be smart, funny, and emotionally resonant all at once. Many have tried to recreate its magic. Few have succeeded. Misery. Just when you thought Rob was settling into feel-good territory, he pivoted completely. Misery, based on another Stephen King story, was a psychological horror thriller about a novelist held captive by his #1 fan. Kathy Bates delivered a performance so terrifying and brilliant that she won the Academy Award for Best Actress. The hobbling scene remains one of the most disturbing moments in cinema. Rob proved he could master any genre. A Few Good Men. Rob capped off this incredible run with A Few Good Men, a military courtroom drama starring Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, and Demi Moore. You can't handle the truth. That line, delivered by Nicholson, became instantly iconic. The film was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Nicholson received a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Rob received nominations for Best Director at the Golden Globes and Directors Guild of America. Let me put this 7-year stretch into perspective. Between 1986 and 1992, Rob directed Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men. Each one is considered a classic in its respective genre. This isn't just a hot streak. This is the kind of run directors dream about having once in a lifetime. The Castle Rock years and beyond. In 1987, Rob co-founded Castle Rock Entertainment with several partners. The production company became a powerhouse, releasing not just Rob's films, but also hits like In the Line of Fire, The Shawshank Redemption, Needful Things, and even producing a little show called Seinfeld. Turner Broadcasting acquired the company in 1993. Rob continued directing through the 90s and 2000s. The American President in 1995 was a smart blend of romantic comedy and political drama. The Bucket List, 2007, starring Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, became a surprise hit about 2 terminally ill men completing their wish list. Not everything was a commercial success. Rob himself acknowledged this shift. "I'm making the movies I want to make," he told The Guardian in 2008. "Studios are looking for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, and you're not going to get it with a little movie. But I came into this business to express myself and tell stories, not just churn out a product." He directed films about civil rights, Ghosts of Mississippi, the Gulf War, Shock and Awe, and even a semi-autobiographical family drama, Being Charlie, co-written with his son Nick, a project that must have required immense courage and vulnerability from both of them. The film Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, was released in 2025, his final film. The Activist. But Rob Reiner wasn't just a filmmaker. He was a man who believed in using his platform for change, and boy, did he ever use it. Early childhood education. In 1997, Rob and Michelle founded the I Am Your Child Foundation. Their mission was to educate parents about the critical importance of a child's early years. Using his Hollywood connections, Rob produced celebrity-hosted videos about parent-child interaction and early development. President Bill Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton gave them their attention. Tom Hanks participated in shoots for ABC specials. A year later, in 1998, Rob chaired the campaign for California Proposition 10, which created First 5 California, a program funding early childhood development services through a tobacco tax. He served as the organization's first chairman from 1999 to 2006. Michael Levine, who led Rob's nonprofit organization, remembered sitting in a car with Tom Hanks between shoots, discussing toxic stress and adverse childhood experiences. It was pretty forward-looking stuff, Levine recalled. The work inspired similar ballot initiatives across the country. Florida's successful Universal Pre-K initiative and Arizona's First Things First measure both followed in the footsteps of Rob's California campaign. Rob credited Michelle as his inspiration. "I can honestly say the reason I've done as many things in the political sphere is largely because of her," he said in 2016. "She is my Bunsen burner that lights the flame in my ass." In 2004, they established Parents Action for Children, continuing their advocacy work and distributing educational resources to parents, educators, and policymakers. Marriage equality. Rob co-founded the American Foundation for Equal Rights, which led the legal challenge against California's Proposition 8, the measure that banned same-sex marriage in the state. The successful challenge was a landmark moment in the fight for LGBTQ+ rights. Anti-smoking advocacy. As part of the Directors Guild of America's Social Responsibility Task Force, Rob advocated for reducing gratuitous smoking in films. Knowing what we know about the impact and influence smoking in movies has on young people, we as directors have a responsibility to eliminate gratuitous smoking in films, he stated. His anti-smoking activism was so prominent that South Park parodied him as a morbidly obese, hypocritical tyrant in the episode Butt Out, a satirical jab that Rob probably took as a badge of honor. Environmental causes. Rob led the successful effort to preserve California's Amundsen Ranch as a state park and wildlife refuge rather than allowing commercial development. Political engagement. Rob was one of Hollywood's most outspoken liberal activists. He campaigned for Al Gore in 2000, Howard Dean in 2004, Hillary Clinton in 2008 and 2016, and Joe Biden in 2020. He was even mentioned as a possible candidate to run against Arnold Schwarzenegger for California governor in 2006, though he declined for personal reasons. In 2021, he announced plans for a television project about the relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, continuing his commitment to political storytelling. The man behind the camera. Throughout his directing career, Rob continued acting. He appeared in his own films, most memorably as Marty DeBurgi in This Is Spinal Tap, and took supporting roles in numerous projects: Throw Mama from the Train, Sleepless in Seattle, Bullets on Broadway, The First Wives Club, Primary Colors, and Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street. He remained close to his television roots, making appearances on 30 Rock, The Simpsons, Hannah Montana, and most recently, The Bear. In December 2023, he opened a CBS special honoring Dick Van Dyke, a fitting tribute given that Van Dyke had starred in Rob's father's most famous creation. Legacy and family. Rob's personal life was marked by deep partnerships. His marriage to Michelle lasted 36 years. Together, they raised 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy. Rob also remained close to his adopted daughter, Tracy Reiner, from his marriage to Penny Marshall. His commitment to family extended to his creative work. Being Charlie, the 2015 semi-autobiographical film about addiction and family tensions, was co-written with his son Nick, a project that must have required immense courage and vulnerability from both of them. Raised in a non-observant Jewish household, Rob had a bar mitzvah, but later identified as atheist, though he expressed sympathy for Buddhist philosophy and values, like compassion and mindfulness. The art of connection. What made Rob special wasn't just his versatility, though directing successful films across comedy, drama, horror, romance, and fantasy is impressive enough. It wasn't just his comedic timing or his ability to work with actors, though Kathy Bates credited him with changing the course of her life. What made Rob special was his fundamental understanding of what connects us, whether he was making you laugh at a band whose amplifiers went to 11, or making you cry at 4 boys finding a body by the railroad tracks, or making you believe in true love through a fairy tale princess. Rob understood the human heart. He never talked down to his audience. He never settled for easy laughs or cheap tears. He made films that respected your intelligence while engaging your emotions. That's a rare gift. And beyond cinema, he used his voice and platform to advocate for children, for equality, for health, and for the environment. He didn't just entertain us, he challenged us to be better. When Kathy Bates learned of his passing, she said, "He was brilliant and kind, a man who made films of every genre to challenge himself as an artist. He also fought courageously for his political beliefs." That might be the perfect summary: brilliant, kind, courageous. Rob Reiner leaves behind a filmography that spans decades, a family he loved, causes he championed, and countless moments of joy he created for audiences around the world. From Meathead to master director, from activist to artist, he lived a life dedicated to storytelling and making the world a little bit better. That's the kind of legacy most people only dream of. So the next time you quote The Princess Bride to a friend, or watch When Harry and Sally for the 100th time, or introduce your kids to Stand By Me, remember the man who made those moments possible. Remember someone who believed that movies mattered, that stories could change hearts, and that speaking up for what's right was always worth it. Rob Reiner's work will endure. The laughter, the tears, the inspiration, it's all still there, waiting for new audiences to discover and old audiences to revisit. And isn't that what great art does? It outlives us. It keeps connecting people long after the artist is gone. Thank you, Rob, for the films, for the laughter, for the courage, for reminding us that stories matter and that fighting for what's right always will. As they say in The Princess Bride, death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for a while. And your work, that will live forever.